In this video, I want to take a look at working with plugins. We've called up channel strip settings at the beginning of these videos, and they called up plugins for us automatically. But let's look a bit closer. There are two basic types of plugins. There are software instrument plugins and audio effect plugins. Now, when we look at some of these earlier channel strips we called up, we'll see that the instrument plugins are loaded in here in the I/O slot, and the effects plugins are loaded in the insert slots. Now, you can control the behavior of plugins when you call them up in the preferences. I'm going to go to Preferences, and I'm going to go to Display, and we'll look at the Mixer tab, and we have two settings here. We can open plugin window on insertion, meaning that when we call one up, it'll open automatically, and set a default size. I'm going to leave these both at their defaults now so that it does open on insertion and at the standard size without magnifying it, but that's where you can control some preferences. Now, let's create a new software instrument at the bottom, and we're going to look at working with some plugins. I'm going to hit my plus button and create one software instrument, and we have a new blank instrument here, and we can insert an instrument in this field here. So I'm going to click hold, and the top of the display shows all the built-in software instruments that ship with Logic. And because this is a stereo instrument track, mono or stereo instances are available, and if I just click on the name, it'll default to instantiating a stereo version, so I don't specifically have to go in and select stereo. So let's call up Sculpture. So a stereo version is called up, and you'll see here it's a big complicated interface, but this is the main plugin, and you can resize it with these resize handles here. It doesn't go smaller, but I can make it bigger. Well, I don't really need that. It's such a big interface right now, but that's how you can resize plugins. You can leave plugin windows open and toggle whether they're hidden or revealed by using the key command V. So V will hide the open plugins, and V again will bring back the open plugin windows. Right now we only have this one open, but it applies to all of them. Now you can link and unlink the plugin view by means of this link icon. Now with this off, when I open up another plugin, we're going to get multiple plugin windows open. For example, if I go back to that bass track and open the compressor, you'll see we have both opened here. And again, if I hit V, it'll hide both, and V will bring them both back. But if I enable this link button, the view will update to display the compressor, or rather the plugin that I open, in this case the compressor, and only one will be displayed at a time. So I'll open that, and it changes to the compressor. I'll click there, it's the channel EQ. And if I go back to our instrument here and click there, it's Sculpture again. So that's the link button, a means of managing space by only having one plugin window open at a time. Now we can choose presets in the plugins. This is pretty consistent throughout most of the plugins in Logic via this little flip menu in the middle here. So we click hold and we get a bunch of factory presets, and above the dotted line are user presets. These are my own ones that I've either created or imported or got from other locations, but these are the default factory settings. And you can copy and paste settings. You can go next previous setting via those menu commands. You can copy the setting, you can load settings, save setting as, delete settings, standard management, and you can always revert to a default. So let's call up a setting now. I'm going to go to plucked instruments, and there's subcategories here, and I'm going to choose Telecaster. We have buttons here for next plugin setting and previous plugin setting, and the key command equivalents are the left bracket and right bracket to scroll through the presets linearly. And this does the same thing as the next and previous setting does up there. Now you can bypass plugins. Right now, if I hit my keyboard, we're going to hear this. Let me lower the volume. But we can bypass by hitting the bypass button. There'll be no sound, and you'll see it's grayed out in the menu here. You can also bypass without opening the plugin window. If you're just working in your mixer, you can option click directly on the plugin and bypass it. Same thing goes for effects plugins. Like this chorus is bypassed right now. Now you can also switch between the contents of plugin windows by means of these fields over here. Right now we're showing the channel strip, and this shows the insert, which is Sculpture, but I can also choose to show one of the other instruments. So it'll switch like that, and I can look at the different plugins that are called up on that channel strip. So you can control the view here easily. Let's go back to our Sculpture, and there we are. And you can also optionally view the plugin in control mode, where you see sliders for all the parameters, or, of course, you can switch back to editor view and get the graphic interface. And you can also resize the plugins here with these preset values. Now, optionally, there's also extended parameters. There's none available on Sculpture, but let's go back, for example, to this compressor. and I'll click on that, and you see this little downward pointing triangle here. A lot of plugins have that, and they reveal additional parameters. And also, there's a sidechain field. We're not going to get into that here, but a lot of plugins can take advantage of sidechain processing, and you can access the sidechain inputs there. Let's go back to Sculpture. There we go. And this has sidechaining also. All right, I'm going to close this up, and I'm going to put down a simple little guitar part. I put a bass part down before on this extra section. I'm going to add guitar, and then we're going to look at a couple of special plugins for guitar processing.
Give me someone to hold tight. Give me someone who makes it feel so right.
Okay, and Control Asterisk, capture last take. I'm going to quickly copy it. Pretty boring. It sounds like kind of a lame guitar sound. Well, I want to take a look at a couple of guitar processing plugins that are new in Logic 9, and I want to look at these because they're a little bit different than the main body of plugins and how they work. The interface is a bit different on these. So in the Insert menu, I'm going to call up Amp Designer. Now the main interface is split into a few different sections, and I want to look at those. It's a big interface. On the left here we see the amplifier graphics, and on the right we see the speaker cabinet. It's hard to fit it all onto one screen, but there's the speaker with the microphone, and there's the main body of the head. We can call up different combos or stacks from the bottom, and this calls up modeling combinations of amplifiers and different speaker cabinets that go together. And we have amp parameters here, like gain, presence, master controls. And there's an EQ section where we can attenuate or boost frequencies, and there's 5 different models of EQ to choose from. We have an effects section over here, reverb, where you can basically turn it on and off and adjust level and select between different types of reverb. And then different amp models have different built-in effects. In this case, it can be toggled between either a tremolo or vibrato effect, and there are depth and speed controls to adjust the parameters, and it can be either synced to the host tempo or run free and independent of the project tempo. Now we have the familiar menu up here where we can choose many different types of amps, but we can also call them up here, these combinations. Let's start with one, and let's listen to what that sounds like. I'm going to loop this section here.
Give me someone to hold tight. Give me some.
That's already a bit grungier and dirtier. It sounds funkier. And then we can customize the stacks by changing optionally the amp and the speaker cabinet. So you can have a separate amp and cabinet rather than what's set up with this default setting. The speaker section is on the right, and there's modeling of what type of microphone and where it's placed. But you can also shrink the display here by clicking this disclosure triangle and getting a reduced set of controls. But let's open it for now and work with the full feature set. You can choose what type of mic effect that you want amplifying the speaker, and you can even position it around.
Give me someone to hold tight.
I'm going to lower the output.
Give me someone who makes it feel so right. Give me some.
So there's lots of fun ways of customizing the guitar amp plugin, Amp Designer. And I want to look at Pedal Board, which sort of accompanies it. I'm going to open it up underneath. And this also has a big display, and we can hide or reveal sections of it with that. But let's look briefly at this. We have the pedal area here. It's like a big virtual stomp box. We have the pedal browser here. And we have a routing area up here. And we have a macro control section at the bottom for assigning controllers for external control. And we can hide show the pedal browser like you just saw with this disclosure triangle. And we can filter the view of what type of pedals we want here with this button. So let's say we want to view just distortion plugins. We just drag them in, and we can process the sound with these.
Give me someone to hold tight.
Let's say I'm going to add in Octafuzz.
Give me someone to hold tight. Give me some.
And we can continue like that. And we have an import mode where we can import specific settings. Let's say I want to import fuzz settings. I can choose between basic Octafuzz, and it'll call up that plugin for us with a nice preset. And import mode can be toggled on or off with that. Anyway, this is just a brief overview of these 2 great plugins and how they can be used to process guitar. So let me close that up. And one more thing I want to show you about plugins is how you can move them around. Let's say we want to move these plugins down a slot and insert something before them. Well, I can hold down my command key in the mixer. I'm going to open up the mixer window here. And with the command key, you get a little hand tool, and you can move them around. So you can move between slots like that, or even between tracks. And if you hold down Option with that, you can copy them. And I'm going to click hold there and go No Plugin. You can even swap them, like in this one here, for example. If I want to put the compressor between the fuzz and the limiter, I'm going to hold down that and put it on that little dotted line that's highlighted between the two. And that'll change the positioning. And I can swap them like that by putting one right on top of the other. So just some ways of manipulating plugins and where they're placed in the mixer. So that's it. I just wanted to give you an overview of working with plugins in general and a quick little look at Amp Designer and Pedal Board. And that's it. So stay tuned and I'll see you for more next time.